The thing that is most misunderstood about sports radio is its function. It's not that you're supposed to look. There are shifts, there are day parts where if you want to get into the minutia, if you want to talk about cycling and what they do on special teams and all the other things that go into it, all the details that go into being an NHL team, there are shifts for that. There are hours of that. That's not what a morning show does. That's what a morning show isn't supposed to. I'm supposed to call someone or bring the coach on who will explain those moves. I bring the general manager on. I can bring on one of the players. This is what hosting a morning show does. I'm hard pressed to think that going to work for a job that you hate, for a boss who sucks, for you getting yelled at every day and maybe not getting the money that's worth it to you. Maybe you have a hard day where you're outside every day. Hey, there's a lot of people in Western Canada that listen to that show that weren't just from Calgary. They were also from Saskatchewan. And these guys would be out working the fields and so on. They wanted to get some laughs in with a little bit of the sports. So what you want to do is be an entertaining guy, and hopefully you have the chops to actually do that. And then on the other side, you call someone who can explain all those things better than I can, better than any probably morning guy can, because there's a reason why they're a morning guy, because they were probably, for the most part, in broadcast and maybe not a great athlete. Look, my background is weird. It's different. I played at a very high level of sports, but I also started doing stand-up when I was in grade 12. Freak and weird. I was a goalie and a drummer. All the weird stuff that goes into this brain where I hear the voices. I'm sitting there looking at a football game. All of a sudden, I hear Peyton Manning going, what he should have done. What he should have done was you got to pull that back. You got to make them read into when you're going to play action pass. You don't just run with it, dummy. That's not RPO. This is what goes on in this head. This is what I have going on. Bob Cole,
I get it.
All kinds of stuff is going on there.
I don't even think it's weird.
Get ready for the Pedersen Show.
We're brawling this team, and the guy yells over the glass, "Go back to the NHL, Preston, you loser." Can't even say it with a straight face.
It was a good beak when we'd roll into a bigger center. They'd say, "Go back to Wynyard. Go back to the NFL where I was making more money and doing better." I'd like to. Thank you very much.
Where I was flying on the charter with the double-wide leather seats and the filet mignon.
Yeah, working on it.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the RP Show. It's an interesting day. I'm like Oiler fans today. We're having a day. Welcome to the beautiful Golden Ticket Sports Center in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. I'm here. I think Moose is there in Toronto. Let's bring him in, the other half of the program. Moose, you know what I'm looking for. You know what I'm looking for. So am I going to get it or no? What's up?
Check. It should be in there. You should have it.
Okay, cool. So we're ready to go with episode number 1263. Okay, yeah. So there it is. We're ready. The guests today are Lee Genier and Bryn Griffith, and it's just, I'm not going to let them get me down. I got to tell you why. I opened the text line, and this is a small thing. We have a lot to get to over the next 2 hours. Lee Genier, the Saskatchewan Rattlers president of the team, is going to join us, and Bryn Griffiths, iconic Edmonton broadcaster from all over Western Canada. But Darren, I opened the text line, 902-518-3033. You know Gary with 2 R's from Penticton, BC, that writes in this, and he's a big fan of yours. As we set sail here on this Tuesday program, number 1263, the RP Show, this is what I read. Dear Rod, my TV provider, TELUS, has removed the Game Plus listing from their network. I will not be able to watch you any longer, thus I will not be able to comment. I've enjoyed you, Moose, and your guests as you navigated through all sports stories and interests. So going forward, I wanted to let you know that you will not hear from me any longer unless I can find you somewhere else. Signed, Gary with 2 R's. Maybe call TELUS and pay the $5, you cheapskate.
How about
or I only say every day, streaming, YouTube, WQEE, Apple Podcasts. Darren, what? What's wrong with people? What?
I know. That's why we, multi-platforms, baby. That was the whole idea. That if you can't get it on TV, we got it somewhere else. But I get it. Some people need some extra help with that.
And by the way, tell us what's wrong with you. Come on. But took us off the free preview, and all of a sudden everybody's mad. Anyways, can you hit the Quick Six show horn, please? Director Jordan, and we'll fire it up. Okay, we open every day with the big story, and the big story is quite obviously the Stanley Cup playoffs, and the Edmonton Oilers are heading home, trailing the Florida Panthers 2-0 in the Stanley Cup final. It's like, why would I even bother to write the guy back? If you can't figure out on your own that we are in all these other places, then you're beyond hope. The Oilers lost 3-0 on Saturday in Game 1 and then 4-1 Monday night in Game 2, despite enjoying a 51-47 edge in shots over the two games. In Game 2 Monday night, Edmonton's impressive penalty kill streak ended at 35 as Evan Rodriguez scored twice in the third period, including once on the power play to lead the Panthers to the win. So settle in. Game 3 goes Thursday in Edmonton. We got some time to get to this here in the warm-up, Darren. I watched the whole game from pillar to post. It was complete and utter domination by the Panthers. We joked yesterday about running Bob. If you watched the game, they didn't even get near Bob. To run him, brush him, breathe on him, they didn't get near him. The Panthers just choked them. They're just choking them out. Here's the Oilers. Now, maybe you feel, and that's the poll question here, which, by the way, I haven't got around to tweeting, but maybe I think Clark's put it up on YouTube. Are the Oilers toast? Because I think we've all seen series change. Have you seen the stat? I'm sure you have, that 6 teams in the Stanley Cup final have come back from 0-2 down. So it's 100 years of NHL hockey. 6 teams have come back from being down 0-2 in the Stanley Cup final. So complete domination. I have more. I want to get into the officiating because people are talking about it from both sides. What did you see in Game 2 last night?
I saw a game that was, at least for most of it, the complete opposite from Game 1. So Game 1 was a game that was dominated by the Oilers, and Florida found a way to win. Game 2 was the opposite. It was really dominated by Florida. And I thought for much of it, it was dominated by Florida, and Edmonton came down and scored. I'm like, this is exactly Game 1, but flipped. But Florida didn't let that one goal be a problem. They kept pushing. They stayed patient. And eventually the game went the way that it probably should have, with Florida winning that hockey game. The penalty kill from the Oilers continues to be world-class despite the goal. Florida has to find a way to do something on the power play. They had the 5-minute power play, never did anything, ended up taking a penalty. Another power play took a penalty. But despite all that, I thought Florida really stepped up their game, and this is the Panthers we've seen throughout most of the playoffs.
Listen, you're not the only one telling me that the Panthers were dominated by Edmonton in Game 1. But I want to just point out, this is going to Game 3. The Oilers have scored 1 goal. I don't know how anybody thinks they've been dominant at any point in this game. They've scored 1 goal, and it came from Matthias Ekholm, the Moose. Which, by the way, I'm watching the game last night with Joe Brokentoe. And where did Ekholm score? 5-hole on Bob. Do you know who yesterday wrote into the show and said they should shoot 5-hole on Bob? Monty.
How about
Saskatoon. And I dismissed it by saying he's never let in a 5-hole goal all play. Monty from Saskatoon should be coaching in the National Hockey League, basically. So, anyways, to the officiating. The Oilers got hosed, and I never turned the game off when it was over. I watched the analysis, and our guy, Luke Gazdick's on there. They were complaining about the officiating. Everybody's coming. Don't even get me. And that's in Toronto. Imagine what they're saying in Edmonton about the officiating last night. And by the way, they were right. I mean, wrong is wrong. The Oilers run a power play 5-on-4, and Rodriguez shoots the puck out of play, and he gets away with it. That's not viewable, as the broadcaster said on the broadcast, which it's not. I mean, this is where the game sucks. You got all these replays, but you're not allowed to use them. That's a glaring point in the game where if it's called properly, it's a 5-on-3, and God knows, with that crew, the Oilers probably do score. All of a sudden, it's a totally different game. And maybe it's 2-0. for the Oilers, right? That's totally changed. And this was on an error by the refs. You talk about the 5-minute major. Was it a penalty? Was it not? I don't know. But on the total flip side, I follow Panthers fans, and it's quite interesting. A guy that works at FAU in the sports department, he was like, I'm listening to NHL radio this morning. How come nobody's talking about the elbow on Alexander Barkov by Leon Draisaitl? Why was this not a major? Why is this not supplementary? So I'm like, well, both teams are upset at the refs and the NHL. And in that case, I think then the refs did a good job, but both teams are mad because if only one's mad, it maybe was one-sided. It was a botched game officiating-wise, in my opinion. And that guy from FAU said, by the way, if Barkov had hit Draisaitl that way, we'd never hear the end of it. I'm like, he would have broken his jaw if he had. That's the size of Barkov. How did you feel about officiating last night?
Yeah, for the most part, I didn't have too much of a problem with it because I don't tend to dwell on those things. But I'm not a fan of either of these two teams. I understand, and you're right. That out of the puck out of over the glass from right at the blue line, that would have been a 5-on-3. I think that was obviously missed, and that was a big turning point in the hockey game. It really was.
Yes,
you're able to pull that penalty off. You're not worried. 5-on-3, I think you're right. Probably 8 or 9 times out of 10, the Oilers will score, and then you're really in trouble. And then the game is completely changed. You're playing tighter. You're not playing as free, and all of a sudden you're out of it. So I think that was a huge miss. You're right. The 5-minute penalty, you could make arguments either way on some of the other ones too, but that was a big mistake last night for sure.
Not laughing at what you're saying. I'm just checking the YouTube stream coming in. Darwin in Winnipeg writes in and says, how will our Winnipeg Jets look in September for training camp? Guy, not here, not now, not today. Let's keep it on point when we're talking about who is playing last night, which is actually, and I appreciate you watching and chiming in, but I'm not talking about the Winnipeg Jets here right now. So to the officiating last night, Gary in BC says, I agree 100%, Rod, on reviewing plays. It's ridiculous in my opinion. Like when they say, and my good friend Arash says it all the time, and a lot of people say it about officiating, they want to get it right. No, they don't. No, they don't. Because if they wanted to get it right, they would have overrode that rule that this is not reviewable. It's the Stanley Cup final, a pivotal moment in Game 2. Oh, no, we can't touch it because it's not reviewable. So don't tell me you want to get it right. You're okay with leaving it be wrong. It's all. Just can you just be real and say it the way that it is? So the poll question today is, are the Edmonton Oilers done? 71% on YouTube, and I haven't put it up on Twitter and probably won't. 71% saying, yes, they're done. And I'm going to sit here right now and say, no, they're not. I don't believe the Edmonton Oilers are done. I'm still cheering for the Panthers. I still pick the Panthers to win in 6. But I don't think the Oilers are done. I.e. sweep? No, absolutely not. You?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't think the Oilers are done. We've seen them in this series play good enough to win hockey games. They'll get back to that. They typically, in these playoffs and throughout the year, we don't see the Oilers play two poor back-to-back games. We thought they were done after Game 3 against Dallas. They came back and never looked back. I think they're going to be fine. I really do. They'll be okay.
What's the definition of fine? Like, I did like what they said after the game last night, the Oilers players. And I can't remember who because I interviewed them all live in the locker room. But they're like, we just got to come back and win one game. I think Chris Knobloch said that, the head coach. That's the only way you can look at it. Don't think about tying it up 2-2. You can't. One shift at a time, let alone one game at a time. So to the next point, I'm staying out of the comments because I wasn't in the best frame of mind coming into the show, and they're just going to set me off. So, by the way, elevate your game at Golden Ticket Sports Center in Moose Jaw, where passion meets performance. Check us out at goldenticketsportscenter.com. I guess, so the point 2 rolls into what these they're sitting here wanting to talk about the Winnipeg Jets. And I understand Winnipeg is very high in our viewership demographic. I know that. So get this, point 2. Albertans may be watching every second of the Stanley Cup final, but most Canadians are not, according to a recent survey. The poll released by market research company Leger today found that 58% of Canadians are not paying close attention to the NHL final between the Edmonton Oilers and Florida Panthers. The study found that 35% of Canadians won't be following the final at all. Quebec is the most disinterested, with 70% saying they're not following the final round of the NHL playoffs. Men, 50% of men are also more likely to follow the final than women, only 34%. The vast majority of Canadians who said they are following the series are supporting the Oilers. 83% supporting the Oilers. 10% of Canadians are cheering for the Florida Panthers, and 7% say they don't care. And conversely, a survey conducted in the USA, a quarter of Americans, roughly 27%, said the USA sports fans, or people in America, not just sports, all Americans, 27% will be following the series, and 49% of them cheering for Florida. That's a lot of facts. That's a lot of figures throwing at you. But I heard on the radio here yesterday that in Calgary, they're not even watching the game, that they don't even know that this series is on. And by the way, I don't doubt that for one single second. But this Leger poll is supposed to be anonymous, isn't it? I mean, how do you feel, Darren, when you hear those numbers, first of all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not overly surprised when our teams are out of this, out of the playoffs. A lot of times we check out as fans. I'm actually shocked at how many Americans are following. I know 27%. That's high, right? When you think of 10 million people, or the population of the U.S., that's a lot of people. That's 75 million people? That's pretty good. That's a lot of Americans tuning into the NHL playoffs, which I like. And we got to remember, as much as the Oilers have a massive fan base, in the grand scheme of the NHL, Edmonton is still not a huge market by any means. But I still think overall it's good to see Canadians following the Stanley Cup.
Sure, and a lot of people hate the Edmonton Oilers too. That's just a fact. So out of all that, it's interesting that you brought up the USA. 27% of Americans are following the series. It's this huge narrative in Canada that nobody in the Americas even heard of hockey, or the National Hockey League, and that's wrong. I don't know who purports that. I don't know who's whipping it up, but it's wrong. And the numbers here show you that it's wrong. And for people to say, I'm not even following the Stanley Cup final. If you're not, then that's a you problem, because we are. Now, moving on, point 3 of the Quick Six show topic. I'm going to remind the audience, we steer the ship. We steer it. To quote Chris Jones, don't get it twisted. Point 3, the Eastern Conference leading Connecticut Sun scored 26 points in the first quarter and then coasted past the visiting Indiana Fever 89-72 in WNBA action last night. Rookie Caitlin Clark, playing her first game since learning she did not make the U.S. Olympic team roster, scored 10 points for the 3-10 Fever. I'm watching the highlights. The opposition are like flopping on her. They're mocking her on the court. And I'm sitting there going, she doesn't look like she's having very much fun playing the game at all. It's in my commentary today at rodpedersen.com and on Sask Radio. She should be having fun. She's not having fun. This has been a master class in society, and I'm sorry to say, but what a toilet it's become. It was the greatest story ever. She's rising up out of the cornfields in Iowa, going to become the all-time scoring leader in NCAA history, leads Iowa to the March Madness title on the women's side, most watched ever, #1 overall pick by the Indiana Fever, and now this. The team's second worst in the league, not last place, but close at 3-10. She's snubbed from the U.S. roster. The other teams are elbowing her, flopping her. The refs are ignoring it. What the hell happened in 3 months? Let's build somebody up, and then let's just kick the shit out of her. Wow. Because I'm sitting here going, has Caitlin done anything wrong? Has she misstepped at all? I don't think so. I know we're late for a break, so just percolate on that for a second. It's disgusting to me. and I'm really pulling for her. And I can't believe how many middle-aged white men like me have an opinion on this. Whether you're for her or against her, everybody's got a take. It's wild. We'll be right back. We're halfway through the Quick Six show topics. It's the warm-up on Game Plus TV, WQEE Radio, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Live, and Wiki, Spotify.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience in the seats or
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. DDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Hey, honey, can you get one of the kids to show me how this Twitter thing works? Honey, I need to get on Instagram. Time for more of the Rod Pedersen Show.
We are taking our cuts here on this Tuesday, episode number 1263 of your favorite daytime sports talk show. And by the way, here's your daily reminder to sign up for Landmark Extras for free. I hope you have. Moose and I belong. It's a rewards program for movie lovers like we are. Go to landmarkcinemas.com, check out the 3 programs, pick the one you like the most, start going to the movies, and start going to free movies after that and getting free concession treats as well. Let's please bring in the Moose. I was getting a little wound up, talked myself down. We got some good stuff coming in here from the audience, Darren, at 902-518-3033. Just on the officiating from last night, Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final. Brian in Hudson's Bay says, good morning, guys. A lot of upset Oiler fans today. I would say the sun will still come up, but I haven't seen that for a few days either. LOL. Have a good one, boys. Go Riders. And by the way, on the CFL fans that have tuned in, we're getting to it. I'm going to put a smile on my face and just say, just chill. Some guy wrote me on the weekend. He's like, I don't know what happened to your show. It used to be all CFL, and now you talk NFL and NHL and MLB, and you just kind of left me behind. Bro, I don't like that Tim Hortons serves pizza. It's ridiculous when you think about it, but I can still go to Tim Hortons and get my coffee and my Timbits because Moose hears me order it every single damn day. So stop bitching. Thank you. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Back to Caitlin Clark. How do you feel about this? Have I misread it? Because I know I'm not reading every detail of what's going on. This is just what I see.
There's a lot of envy, and there's a lot of that attitude when you have somebody young that comes onto the scene and brings all this attention. And I understand it's human nature for the rest of the league to be like, what is so special? We've been here for years, busting our asses, doing this, playing the game at a high level. She scored 10 points last night, but yet she gets all this attention. And what about us? There are MVPs, there are champions, there are all-star players around the WNBA. But the reality is, Caitlin Clark is a bit of a cult icon and a bit of a hero, and she's bringing this extra attention. Instead of looking at it and saying, well, we've been here working this whole time, try and just catch a piece of it. And what's the saying, right? A rising tide rises all boats, right? Lifts all boats.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can all rise together. But again, people want to cut somebody else down when they get the attention and have all the success.
Well, I just hope that people are paying attention to what an experiment this is on what's going on. We didn't even know one player in the WNBA until Brittany Griner. And oh, by the way, why did she make the news? Because she got caught with drugs in Russia and thrown in jail. Don't get me going on that. And how she was negotiated by the president to get out of a jail and a war hero. Left, don't. Okay, so that was my introduction to the WNBA. And now I'm invested because of Caitlin Clark. Oh, we were here first. Nobody knew you were there. At some point, we got to do the, it is what it is. You only follow the Regina Pats because of Connor Bedard. There's 19 other kids on that team. What are their names? Because I can't name two. So I'm watching them because of Bedard. I'm watching the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark. So it's disgusting. It's really bad at what she's putting up. And I'll just say this. Somebody wrote into our website today and said she's of Generation Z and she's going to fold. Because as soon as those veterans saw that they could lean on her and she's going to shut it down, she's going to fold. I'm like, well, I hope this isn't the end of Caitlin Clark. And I think it's pretty early to write her off. But that's why I am a champion of Caitlin Clark, because I'm pulling for her. Because it doesn't seem like anybody else in basketball is. It's just sick. So back to the other stuff. Donnie writes in and says, the NHL and NBA season run too long. I don't agree. He goes on to say about the numbers there. He goes, I'm not sure about that 27% because the numbers overall are down 3 million in viewership. Where, how, what? I literally just got a release notification from the NHL this morning that ratings are up 47%. And the most since 2019. Like, they lie. Darren, I've said many times, boys lie. They said so this is the way that it is. I don't think we're ever going to just go with it, Rod. Thoughts?
We promote the numbers that are going to make us look the best. So if the numbers aren't up overall, we would say, males 25 to 54 are up 13%. Yeah, but overall, less people are watching. Doesn't matter. These people are up. This viewership is up. Our viewership in Southern Florida is up by 87%. Yeah, it's because the Panthers are in the Cup. But it makes you look at, hey, that's marketing, that's PR 101, been happening for centuries.
Yeah, it's not new. I'm just saying don't believe any of what you say. And if Shocks is watching right now out there in Lethbridge, the famed hockey coach, believe none of what you see and, believe none of what you hear and half of what you see, unless we're saying it because we never lie. Yeah, but this is, Wayne in Victoria, BC says, it sounds like Caitlin Clark is being canceled. Right. Why? BW in Edmonton writes in and says, morning, RP Scott, is Caitlin experiencing a small case of reverse racism? It ain't small, bro. She's getting canceled in her own league by the vets. Yeah, that's what's going on. And the one thing before we do move on, and it's a hot button topic right now that I think a lot of the other leagues wish they had this kind of pub and hype. Has she done anything wrong? Like, she kind of reminds me, like, has she misstepped one time? Did she swear on the mic like Charles Barkley did last night? No, she hasn't done one damn thing wrong. Everybody hates her. Wow. How would you like to be her? Every single morning, man.
I know. It's awful tough, and she's handling it fairly well. I didn't like the press conference after the last game where she talked about how, the team didn't have any effort and you're not going to win like that. And I get it. Young player coming in being boisterous. But at the same time, that's who she is. She's authentically always been that way. And, she's earning her way and she's, producing on the floor most nights. And, 10 points isn't a big game for her. But, but there's just a lot of that envy and hatred and all this negativity that you don't like to see.
Let's not be that. Randy from Winnipeg writes in and says, WNBA players need to learn the Tiger Woods effect. Everyone makes more money. Right? Like, is somebody sitting them down and going, girls, let's give you a lesson in business here. Okay? This ain't grade 8. This is big. This is pro sports. Okay? Zip it. The Barflies in Winnipeg says Caitlin Clark should take her game to Europe and let the WNBA implode. Oh, exact. Bye. I'm going to start my own league, which she probably could. Anyways, to point 4, Colin Ray allowed just 3 hits while working 7 innings for his longest outing in 8 years, leading the Milwaukee Brewers to a 3-1 win over the Blue Jays Monday night. Ray threw 85 pitches, struck out 4, and allowed 1 run, a third-inning homer by Alejandro Kirk. I'm just throwing this in here. Point 5, Jim Nill of the Dallas Stars has won the Jim Gregory General Manager of the Year Award. Voting conducted by NHL GMs, a panel of NHL executives, print and broadcast media. The 11th-season Dallas GM was a Jim Gregory finalist for a record time, 4th time, and joins Lou Lamoriello as the only GMs to win the award in consecutive seasons. The runner-ups were the Canucks' Patrick Allvin and Bill Zito of the Panthers. I'm only throwing that in there because I'm just seeing all this whining coming out of South Florida about Zito not winning. I'm like, he's halfway home to winning the Stanley Cup. I don't think he cares about this. The awards don't really mean anything. It is nice to be recognized. And trust me, when our Cats and Bolts podcast won an award, it feels great because it shows you that you are doing what you're doing. But he's going to win the Stanley Cup. So ask Jim Neal what he would rather have. Back-to-back seasons as the GM of the year, winning the Stanley Cup, which he hasn't done, incidentally, with Dallas. So I'd like to, some have said Panthers fans have small man syndrome, and that's what it is. They're always yelling, always mad, always feeling slighted. And it's like, it's a crappy way to live. Which reminds me, we'll get to the CFL. I feel like we're going to spend way more time on it, an hour or two. But it's just the complaining. I'm ready to turn it off. Like, for instance, the Rough Riders won a huge game up in Edmonton on Saturday, one which they weren't favored to win, and people are bitching about the broadcasts on TSN, bitching about this. It's like you just feel so much better when you're upset. And I don't have time for it. They were just waiting to bitch about something with the team, and they couldn't do that, so let's bitch about the TSN people and how annoying they are. I think I need a holiday. I just got back from one, for the love of God. And by the way, just as we're rolling through the quick six show topics, I had point six CFL stuff. So the fans have come here to talk today, and I get that. But we wrapped the weekend yesterday, and we're kind of early to look ahead to week two. What is there? What really is there right now, today?
The big thing that I'm looking forward to in week two is you get the Ottawa Red Blacks off the mat here in their debut. And if it's Drew Brown that's going to be the starting quarterback in Ottawa, really curious about his debut. We had, new quarterback in Toronto with big expectations and big shoes to fill, and he played pretty well, Cameron Dukes. So now it's up to Drew Brown in Ottawa. He gets his real big first shot as a number one quarterback. That's my big storyline going into week two.
Interesting. Well, yeah, and the Argos aren't playing this week, but like you say, with them winning against BC on Sunday at BMO Field, you're wondering if Chad Kelly's even going to be needed at all, and you're probably the Argos are having those conversations behind closed doors. From the audience, before we break, Jim in Balgoni says, dropping truth bombs on the RP show. I like it. Cheers, all. I don't even know what it was that we were like. It's just, thank you. Darcy in Grand Prairie writes that he says, I love Charles Barkley's shout out to grapes. Somehow or another, I missed that. But when it's not between the whistles, I'm not really paying attention. And I also understand Charles dropped an F-bomb on the broadcast, but nobody seems to care about that. And Rob in Winnipeg writes in and says, hey, Rod, somebody in Caitlin Clark's camp has to take her aside and toughen her up. Take a few flagrant fouls and dish out some pain to gain respect. Is it too late? Because she's just been taking it. She's been taking a beating. Maybe she does need to get up and swing a punch. Probably does. She's being bullied, and she's facing adversity, it seems like, for the first time in her life. How are you going to respond? What a delicious storyline. And it's pretty clear. I've made it clear I'm on her side. I'll see you in hour two, Moose.
You bet.
Lee joins us next. We'll be right back here on Game Plus Television, WQEE Radio, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Live, and Spotify.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Esteban and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at IKSGameDay.com.
Now the race is on and here comes pride in the backstretch.
Celebrate 40 years of Sawyer Brown.
Some girls don't like boys like me.
With Shenandoah.
You got to get me to the church on the Cumberland Road.
Plus special guest George Fox. Saturday, October 26th, Moose Jaw Event Center.
I'll take the dirt road.
Tickets are on sale now at the Moose Jaw Event Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
6 days on the road and I'm
Sawyer Brown and Shenandoah live.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. the house.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
We're brawling this team, and the guy yells over the glass, "Go back to the NHL, Preston, you loser." Can't even say it with a straight face.
It was a good beak when we'd roll into a bigger center. They'd say, "Go back to Wynyard. Go back to the NFL where I was making more money and doing better." I'd like to. Thank you very much.
Where I was flying on the charter with the double wide leather seats and the filet mignon.
Yeah, working on it.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
In a world that's gone crazy, we're trying to inject a little sanity and maybe a little humor into your life here on the RP Show. I'm not sure today we're doing a real good job, but it's episode number 1263 of your favorite daytime sports talk show. On this Tuesday, June 11th, my dad's birthday. Let's bring in the Moose, if we don't mind. He is in Toronto. I'm at the Golden Ticket Sports Center here in Moose Jaw, and we're just going to keep on going with the flow. Anything I do appreciate, I get a lot of friends tuning in from Florida. They want to talk Stanley Cup playoffs. Do you have any comments, Moose, before we push forward here into hour two?
No, we're doing everything right. You know, you'll see later on our Instagram page, I pulled the clip of you agreeing with the Oiler fans this morning about getting screwed on that puck over glass non-call. And I think that's going to be a wonderful comment section for Oiler fans to just let it all out. And agree and vent, you know. So that'll go up in the next week break probably.
Can the people that are watching, and again, we owns the 55-plus demographic across Canada, can you write in, please, at 902-518-3033 or on our streaming feed and tell me if I'm just on the right track? Because I'm really, really fearful of where we're going as a society in terms of if you don't get your way, what do you do? How do you handle it? Because, you know, I'm of the generation where I got the, you don't hear me complain a lot. Do you know why? Because when I complain, I got the, so I didn't. And all I hear now is a generation of whiners and complainers. And I just wonder where we're going. And it's like, can I help with that to get people over it? Or do I just check out? Because sitting in this chair that I have right now, it ain't easy dealing with people's complaints about everything. And in the case of like you say, the officiating last night, that's one of the topics today. It was bad. It was bad. What are you going to do about it? And I'll be honest with you. Just before the show, I got a call because I came up to Canada to deal with business. People, I'm a 51-year-old man. And ain't all unicorns and rainbow. I got a life. I got business. I've been going through immigration. I got stuff. I got life. You know what I mean? And it's some people don't see working remotely and being as clearly as I do or as flexible with it. You know, so that's something that I'm dealing with. But you know what? It's not going my way, so how am I going to deal with it without blowing up on the phone at somebody in Florida? Do you know what I mean? So things aren't going to always go your way. How are you going to deal with them is the lesson of the day. And I'm not sure I've entirely figured it out either. But from Trent in Norway, he's watching on YouTube, and he says, if the Oilers are to come back against the Panthers, they need to play Florida's game. Hit, skate, and don't quit. Bobrovsky can't stop everything. He can be beaten. Stay well, everyone. Oh, and Jen writes in from the Four Seasons, says, by the way, it's the Greek Freak's birthday today. George Iannitzos. He's good. He's good. Can you wish him well for me? Happy birthday. Maybe I'll send him a text, too. But I guess that's my point, is whether it's a hockey team or a 51-year-old businessman, contractor like me in the broadcast business, if it doesn't go your way, how are you going to deal with it? How are the Oilers going to deal with it? To be honest, they weren't the ones whining after the game last night. It wasn't at all. It was their fans and then the media on Canadian national television that aren't even Oiler fans. The game was, the players weren't even off the ice. And the analysts were bitching about the officiating last night. And I'm like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But what does it matter? What's your take on all of that?
Yeah, you're not wrong, the complaining about the officiating, but those are things at the end of the day you can't control. And I understand it sucks, but you can't control it, and it's not going to make today better. You hope it can make tomorrow better, by pointing out mistakes and things like that. And the best example I can use is Colin Kaepernick. When he's taking the knee and doing all of that, he is doing a great thing for future generations and hopefully making life easier for future generations. But if you think that you can do it and it's going to fix today, he's the best example. You're not going to do that and get back into the NFL. So you're doing it for other people. So when you're upset and you talk about replay, yeah, they may talk about it in the offseason and put puck over glass replay in for next year or in the next collective bargaining agreement, but it's not going to help Oiler fans win the series today because it's not going to get changed now. Yeah.
And by the way, on the Kaepernick thing, there's a lot of people that think his statement, is history going to show that he was right? I'm not sure that he even was. Maybe he thinks that way. But he was canceled by the NFL, right? And so, yeah, it's interesting. Jeff in Yorkton writes in, he says, the bitching doesn't matter. That's true. No, it doesn't. Brent, my buddy in Florida, another guy from Florida that's writing and watching the show today, he says, excuses, excuses, excuses. Whatever happened to straight up taking a loss? Well, there is that. We could look at it that way. All I'm saying, because I don't know how the Oilers feel or what they're internally saying. I know what they said in the media, but that might not necessarily be how they feel. They're down 0-2. They're in a really big hole. It's not insurmountable. And the poll question today is, are the Oilers done in this series? And I voted no. I think you voted no. But 71% are saying, yeah, they are done. And clearly they can't feel that way. But Brent with the excuses, because after the game, Brent and I were texting back and forth. He's like, what are they complaining about up there? And I said, well, they're mad about the 5-minute major. They thought that was too egregious of a penalty, which the Panthers didn't even score on. So in the end of the day, grand scheme of things, it did not affect the game. The 5-minute penalty, no. But what they're very upset about, Brent, and this is where I don't have an argument with how Oiler fans feel. They're on a power play, and the Panthers shot the puck out of play. Should have been a penalty, but they got away with it. And the replays. Brent's in the rink, hey, Darren? He was there. Far different experience being there versus at home watching on television with all the replays. So it should have been a penalty on the Panthers and a 5-on-3 power play for the Oilers, who had a 1-0 lead at the time. If they scored on the 5-on-3, it's 2-0. Completely different game. So the point that we're saying here is they screwed up. The NHL doesn't even need to issue a letter or an apology because we can all see it. They don't even need to. Remember how the NFL did that last year and they botched that receiver, that tight end touchdown for Detroit in Dallas? Remember they wrote a letter and apologized for it? What are we supposed to do with this? So I guess how I've channeled in my own life injustices is into motivation. For me. That's me. And I would think that's something that the Oilers got to do for Game 3. That's my thought on that. That's all I think you can do.
Yeah, that's all you can do. They've been in a situation before. We remember they lost 2 in a row to Dallas, including blowing that lead. I think it was in Game 3. And Oiler fans felt the same. I think our poll results would have been the same. Are the Oilers done? I think it was 85% of people were saying, yeah, they were done. It wasn't our poll, but that's what it felt like. Oh, we're done. We're done. We blew the lead. That's the turning point. Season's over. I guess I'm going to plan my vacation. And they never looked back. So the Oilers can absolutely come back from this. It's just a 2-game deficit.
Trent in Norway says, I agree. Oh, he agrees with Allie in Texas. She says the Oilers aren't done. It's going to 7. Bill in Regina says, morning all, the Oilers are far from done. So I guess that's the point. It would be nice to have the players stay out of the media, but by the way, they don't, because they're young men. And yes, don't cancel me. There's young women in the WNBA and all the. I'm just saying the hockey players and the football players are the one that I've been around. They're human, just so you know. They don't see everything that you say about them, but they do see a lot. And I love, like, with the interviews after, you and I've done thousands of interviews over a 36-year career. And I watch now for different things because of that recovery component. And they asked Evan Bouchard last night, the Oilers defenseman, some guy's up in his face. They say, Evan, that you're never in trouble in a series until you lose at him. His eyes are darting around. He's not even listening to the West. He's not paying attention. Look at their body language. You know what I mean? They just lost 4-1, and they've only scored 1 goal in the series. And you're bringing up phrases, and they're not listening. Their eyes are darting all over the place. I almost think they should ban interviews right after games. Because it's just, their minds are not there. And the coaches are mad. The thing is, that's when you get the best clip. So that's when the most outrageous things are said. Right?
I know.
It's 11:11. 11:11 Mountain, 1:11 Eastern. Brent.
Beautiful.
My guy Brent in Florida says, respect for McDavid, saying they simply need to step up and play better. It's that simple. Well, you aren't going to get anywhere complaining about the officiating. You're not. I mean, the refs know that they screwed up. Jeff, the Stamps fan, I wanted to go back and find this. He says, when things aren't going your way, that's the best time to count your blessings. And I appreciate him saying that. I'm surprised that I didn't know that he had that enlightened and evolved way of looking at things. And I'm not going to sometimes I forget that I'm sitting here talking to you and our viewers are my friends, but I can't really get into what I'm dealing with. It's not major. You know exactly what I'm dealing with. It's not, in the grand scheme of things, it's not major. It's just a major pain in my behind for me and for this show, potentially. Something I got to deal with the second that I get off the air today. Life, right? And the Oilers got screwed. They did. But not one of them said it. Not one of them said it, including the captain, Connor McDavid. But the media is saying it, and the fans are saying it. Okay, Jen, I'll throw this in there, but she says, first in the power play, we're 0 for 7, too much passing, not enough shooting. Sure. One thing that I did learn about coaches, even the bad ones that get fired, they're still good coaches. I said this to Rider fans, and you might remember, Darren, I think even before you and I got together on this show. Well, must have been, because I wasn't the voice of the Riders much longer after you and I met. If you were seeing it, the coaches saw it months ago. They know. They know. That's why we all get a kick out of the people in the crowd yelling, shoot. Yeah. Well, and here's another one. Jeremy writes in. I'm not sure where Jeremy's at, but he says, you can say every quote like a broken record, but maybe sometimes the team is just that better. Well, I think Florida's that better. I mean, I'm sitting there waiting on the meme that you produced where I said last week, Florida is way hungrier than the Oilers. And they'll win this going away.
Yeah.
It did run through my mind. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not Kruskin. I'm not I'm not Ravine. But I was thinking they're going, do the Panthers fans realize this might be the last time they see them on home ice? They could win the Cup Saturday night in Edmonton. I don't know if any of them stopped. I didn't see any of them saying that on social media, but that kind of is looking like it. And this series is going to have to change fast if that's not going to happen. And I don't know if the Oilers have it in them. I guess my question to you is, from what you've seen, you watched the first 2 games, is Florida that much better? Because they're kind of showing that they are.
Yeah, again, I look at, and I know the Oilers have scored once, but they had a pretty good game 1. And I think the Oilers have, I think they absolutely have it in them to come back in this series. They could win both games at home. And you mentioned that line that you love so much, you're not in trouble till you win at home. That is something that is reserved for situations like this. And the purpose is to keep the Oilers in the right frame of mind. Whether it's real or not real or made up or not, it's a tactic to say, look, okay, they won their 2 at home. We have to win our 2 at home, and we'll go back there tied at 2, and everything's fine again. We can do the exact same thing that they did. If you think you're as good as Florida, then you should absolutely be able to go to Rogers Arena and win 2 games at home like they did in Amerit Bank Arena, right? So that's kind of the saying. It's strictly a motivational saying to keep your team in the right frame of mind. And to Oiler fans, I would say, if you think you're as good as Florida, you should be able to go home now and win 2 games at home in front of your fans. See if they do.
Yeah, well, here's the difference. We've all been around a lot of playoff series and games in our time and watched them as fans, and I've worked them in sports. Here's the difference between age and experience and leagues. I'll just go back to the Regina Pats when they had Connor Bedard a few years ago. Remember, they got up 2-0 on your Saskatoon Blades in round 1. And I was like, the series ain't over. Because the Pats fans thought the upset was in. And I'm like, well, junior hockey is different than the NHL because they're young teenage boys. They haven't learned the lessons yet. College football. I often say how much I enjoy junior hockey and college football because there's mistakes. They're not perfect. It's zany and unpredictable. That's what's fun about it. The pros, no, they're men. And Florida's just a little more men than Edmonton in my mind. Edmonton's had a lot of heartache in the playoffs too. Trust me, I hear it every day. But Florida really took that one in the pills last year. And all year long, they've been waiting to get to where they are right now. I don't really see them letting up. Edmonton can't think about that. And this series can turn on a dime. I just don't really think that it will. Like, I could see Edmonton winning 1 game, maybe Thursday. For their sake, they're going to have to. But I don't see them winning this series. Nope. We'll be back. And on the way, Bryn Griffith, by the way, iconic Edmonton broadcaster and Moose Jaw broadcaster, by the way. The original voice of the Warriors, Darren. We'll be right back. We're live on Game Plus Television, WQEE Radio, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Live, and Spotify.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at IKSGameDay.com.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Send us your opinions now. We won't victimize you unless you really deserve it. Now, back to your host, Rod Pedersen.
Hi, everybody. Just checking in on our sponsors. The Saskatchewan Rattlers pro basketball team plays at a SaskTel Center, offering the best entertainment for all of Saskatchewan sports fans. Their season has started with leadership from their NBA experienced head coach Larry Abney, and they plan to return to championship weekend this August. Get your tickets now by visiting Ticketmaster or head on down to the Rattlers front office in downtown Saskatoon. They are home Wednesday night to the Brampton Honey Badgers. Let's bring the Moose in. We have a lot. I'm trying to keep everything on point, Darren, because we have a lot of messages. We have a lot of viewers watching from Florida today. Some people I know, a lot that I don't. Johnny O just texted me. He's like, we miss you here. He goes, I hope you're enjoying the weather in Toronto. Sure. I just wrote him back and I said, miss you too, Johnny. There's no point.
Toronto is Canada, right? That's what they think.
To them, yes, I miss you too, Johnny. But I said I'm not complaining about the weather. That is a fact. I'm not complaining about that at all. They're in Toledo. My guy Mick is watching in Toledo. We're very big on Game Plus television in Toledo. Hang on, I got to open this with my face. And now my phone's all locked up. Can't get it going here. Mick's writing us on Twitter. He goes, apparently Bob can stop everything. At Rod Pedersen Show. I responded with the graphic that a friend of mine made up with Bobrovsky with all the road construction things in front of all the barricades. It's a company in Florida, Bob's Barricades. So they're all watching down there. And I would say this, in all these previews of the series that I was on as a pundit talking Florida Panthers hockey, if you are expecting Bob to have an off game, he's not going to. So scrap that. So I get a kick out of people saying the Oilers dominated at any point in this series. They've scored 1 goal in 2 games. What? But if you want to believe that, fine. I have more time for the screwing them over by the officials last night, though. I honestly do. Didn't mean anything, but I feel bad for you. Rick in Martinsville writes in, Darren, have you reffed hockey, Moose?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Rick says this. He goes, regarding the over the glass, I'm thinking the refs allow for the follow-through, much like the non-icing calls when players don't quite get to the center ice line. No. No. Not only have I officiated myself, but I've talked to the league directors of officiating. It's not the same. You are either inside the blue line or you are on or outside the blue line. He was inside the blue line. They blew the call. There's not that. And by the way, that hybrid icing they've changed, and it's actually worked really well. That's discretion on the linesman. And they don't always get that right, but the puck over the glass is not. They blew that one. Deal or no deal?
Deal. The icing, yes, a little discretionary because, you're looking at penalizing the team, right? And where was that? If they're close right there at the red line, follow through and stuff, they often let that go. You want to keep the game moving, right? That's the idea. You want to keep the game moving. Puck over glass, though, it's absolutely black and white. There is no keeping the game moving. There's none of that. They missed it. They just missed the call.
Oh, and by the way, they're human.
Yeah.
Has anybody thought about that? Like Wilfin Steinbach writes in. He says, Steinbach, Manitoba, home of the Pistons. He says, hi, Rod and Moose. 4 officials discussed the puck over the glass. Not one was watching where the puck was. Question, not one was watching where the puck was? Game changer. I always get a really big kick out of this in every sport, but especially hockey, which is the fastest sport on the planet. You guys are all going to get together and talk about what? It's moving so fast. What did you see? What did you see? What did you see? Now we all got to get our story straight.
Well, you do.
Can we check the
video? You have
video?
to get your story straight. And when you watch it,
yeah,
I'm sitting there being like, okay, with no, like, this is why this play probably needs to be reviewable, because you're reviewing everything else now, offside and goal interference and all the rest. When you go around that circle, surely one of them was probably saying, you know what, I think it was in. Like inside the blue line, it was close. But when you didn't make a call on the ice and you're not 100% sure, you can't make a call unless you are damn sure that it was inside the blue line. And that's, I think, why we need to have the replay in that situation.
Greg in Calgary with a really good point. And he, by the way, is a Flames fan. And I'll say that again. Here, I listened to this on the radio yesterday. The guest was from Calgary, and he goes, nobody here is watching the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I'm like, there's 2 things to be taken out of that. The ones that are watching it won't admit to it, the Flames fans, and the others are literally not watching it because they're Flames fans. I would like to think if you're a hockey fan, you're watching the Stanley Cup final, whether your team's in it or any. It doesn't matter if you are, you're just not admitting that you are. So. But Greg in Calgary says, if Barkov misses games, the Oilers have a chance. And that also is true. Say it again. This morning, because I follow Panthers fans on Twitter, at my own peril, I like to see what the fans are saying of all teams in sports, because you'd get their perspective. And this guy was like, how come on NHL radio this morning, nobody's talking about the hit on Barkov last night? Well, Leon was penalized for it. What do you want? To be honest, I don't think it was that egregious. I think Barkov will be fine. The guy said, if it was reversed and Barkov hit Draisaitl that way, we'd never hear the end of it. He would have taken Draisaitl's head off. If he's 6'3", 230. I don't know. There was no update on Barkov after the game last night. He is the Panthers captain, and if he does miss time, it's a great point by Greg. It will affect the series. And it's hard to say. What did you think of that elbow, that forearm shot?
Yeah, I didn't like it. I never like it, especially when a player gets hurt. And you're right. If Barkov doesn't play in Game 3, then it's a massive opportunity for both McDavid and Draisaitl because, Barkov has been a bit of a blanket and defensively a very dominant player. So, this is a big, big potential turning point in the Stanley Cup final.
Jen says they didn't even review it, though. The refs didn't because they couldn't, but we saw it on TV. That's the problem. And I have refs tell me that they don't. have a problem with all the camera angles and the review, but how could they not? It's made them look wrong all the time. Before, how could you prove that they were wrong? I'll be honest, it's one thing that I really like about the Western Canadian Baseball League and these secondary leagues, as somebody said to me, they don't have video review. They don't have a big jumbotron in the outfield. So, Darren, the rules are the same now as when I played, except for putting a guy on second base in extra inning. The MLB. Other than that, everything's the same. It's really easy to broadcast the games. You know, it's not all about the reviews have really screwed it up. And Jeremy writes in and he says, I get the review to get it right, but goaltending interference they reviewed and they get it wrong. Terry in Calgary writes in, he says, I'm an avid Flames fan and have hated the Oil forever, but I like the fact that they have so many Canadians on their team. I guess all it comes down to with the blown calls, which you can't deny that there were blown calls that went against the Oilers. And it's one of the things that drives Serena the craziest. And this is why she didn't want Florida to play Edmonton in the Stanley Cup final, because she thinks the Panthers get favored by the NHL, because Gary Bettman wants hockey to flourish in Florida. And to be honest, can't say that she's wrong. Darren, they get all the call. Sam Bennett wasn't suspended for knocking out Brad Marchand. All the calls go Florida's way. They just do. Why? Different question. But would you even think about that if I hadn't told you that's how Serena sees it? Would you look at it that way?
I don't ever look at it that way, but I understand the fans do. Like, I have really close friends who are big Oiler fans that are going to be in the building games 3 or 4. I can't remember which game they're going to. But I see the comments on social media and looking for every outlet, Rod. They're going to Spit and Chicklets tweets. They're going to Sportsnet tweets. They're going to Elliot Friedman tweets and commenting about the officiating. So I get it. I get the frustration, because when it is that way, it looks like everything's going against you, you know. But then you look at the other side of it. Florida got a 5-minute power play. Didn't even get to realize the whole thing is they took their own penalty. Florida had another power play later in the game, took another penalty to negate it. And it was the 4-on-4 that actually opened the scoring for the Oilers. So it's all a matter of which side of the fence you're on for perspective.
Everything is. And by the way, it's interesting because I was talking to some of my media friends down there. Jersey Jim's one who's been going to the games, and I was like, hey, are the Spit and Chicklets guys there? And he was like, no, just the regular guys. The Elliot Friedmans, the Chris Johnstons, obviously Gene Principe, because the Oilers, it's the usual crew. But Spit and Chicklets, the numbers will tell you they are the most influential media outlet in the NHL right now. The most influential social media outlet, right? And did you see they had the girl on their show this week that flashed at the Oiler game? You must have seen that. They interviewed her from Edmonton. And our girl, Sweet Annie in Anaheim, she was like, this was difficult to watch. And like, it kind of was difficult. I clicked on it because she said it. I'm like, is it that uncomfortable? It kind of is. And of course, like an idiot, I went in and read the comments from people like you just brought up. And people are like, well, if you don't like it, don't watch it then. And Annie was like, very good point. I won't. But it's like, right, bye. But I'm like, if this, I'm just sitting there going, because a lot of the young people in this business are trying to find a way to be cool and get their in and be this and that in the media world. And I'm just looking at, I don't even know what the one guy's, obviously Whitney and Biz, we know. I don't know who the quarterback of the thing is out of Boston, but I'm like, if that's what it takes to have cred or be cool, to bring on the girl that flashed to the crowd, I don't want to be cool. There's an old country song by Barbara Mandrell that you may not know. It's if loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. If bringing the girl on the air that lifted her shirt at the Oiler game is what's cool, I don't need to be cool. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
I have not teed up tonight's games. We only have about a minute left in this segment, and then we're going to bring Bryn Griffiths on. We didn't even talk as much about Caitlin Clark here this hour, and that's probably a good thing. But what are your last words, Moose?
Yeah, I mean, off day in the Stanley Cup. I mean, I'm kind of in that. Let's all take a breath. We got two days off here as the series is going to go back to Edmonton. And for Oiler fans especially, just take a breath. Do something that makes you happy. Have some fun. And then get geared up again. And don't lose faith in your team.
Yeah. Well, I may or may be with you tomorrow on the air. I will keep you in the loop. How about that?
We'll talk.
All right. Bryn Griffiths is in next from Edmonton. You know him. You love him. If you don't, you should. Yeah, buddy. We're live on Game Plus Television, which airs all across Alberta and BC on Channel 924 on TELUS Optic Cable and Shaw Rogers Channel 230. WQEE Radio. We are Atlanta's NHL show. Apple Podcasts, YouTube Live, and Spotify.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the house.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Oh, yeah, he's back. Time for more of the Rod Pedersen Show.
All right, let's let it rip. I'm just going to read one comment from a Winnipeg viewer that will roll into our chat here with Bryn Griffiths. Jeremy in Winnipeg. He can bring Bryn on. Jeremy in Winnipeg says, so is the missed calls really holding back the Oilers from putting the puck in the net? Bryn, it's got the country captivated. And by the way, I'm sure you're jealous. I'm in Moose Jaw. I know it's a very special town to you. I'm in Moose Jaw. Yeah, exactly, man.
It is.
Okay, go. Oilers down 0-2.
Okay, first things first, officiating. I have been complaining about the officiating through the entire National Hockey League Stanley Cup playoffs. Not just any series the Oilers are in. I just think it has been awful all the way through the playoffs, and it just carries on right through the Stanley Cup final. There'll be some people say, well, what about the Oilers? You know, I mean, how has it affected them? It's affected them. It affected Vancouver in the Oilers-Vancouver series. It affected the Oilers in the Oilers-Vancouver series. It affected the Oilers against the Kings. It affected the Kings versus the Oilers. It's affected every series I've watched through these playoffs. You know what? I used to call it marble officiating in the Western Hockey League. And I remember getting the calls from Ed Chenoweth and Richard Dirksen about, can you calm down a little bit with the marble officiating? It's where you have 3 marbles in each pocket every time you call a penalty against one team. You take it out, put it in the other. At the end of the night, how many marbles are in everybody's pocket? 3 in either pocket. Nothing changes. The other thing, too, is that I'm not a fan of instant replay stuff. I think players make mistakes. If it wasn't for players making mistakes, it would be a really dull and boring game. I think I'd rather go back to the officials just calling it the way they used to call it. They're going to make mistakes too, and you know what? That's what we talk about, mistakes, either by players or officials. So I don't think anything's ever going to change in the National Hockey League, and I don't think the officials are really doing a worse job in this final than they've done all the way through the playoffs. I just think it's been bad. Reed Wilkins, who is one of my co-hosts on 6:30 Chat in the afternoons, he and I have kind of got into it a few times on this. I don't like, hey, listen, when I did games in the Western Hockey League, I tried not to make the officials out with wearing the black hats all the time. And I know there was, Roger Million's way up in Saskatoon. Kevin Gallant was in Regina. Those guys love to make the referees the bad guys. I hate that stuff. That's just, to me, it's a loser's lament when you turn on the officials. They are not perfect. Players are not perfect, but the NHL's just got to do something. Stop managing the game, boys. That's all I'm going to ask. Just let them play. Okay, I'm done. I'm done.
As I say, I think I've made a few mistakes. I'm human. The refs make mistakes. So it was clear last night, right on review, that the puck should have been a penalty. Let's take that all aside. Because there's the other side of the argument that the Oilers have scored 1 goal in 2 games. That's a problem.
Let's break this down really honest and bluntly. Florida's playing better than Edmonton in this series so far. Deserved to be up 2-0 in the series. We'll see what the Oilers have. This place is going to be a nut house. You know that, on Thursday night. We'll see whether or not the change of venue is going to change too much. But you know what? For the Oilers, it's been a crazy season. It's been a highly entertaining season. I can't remember too many seasons where I've watched the games and I thought to myself, what is going on here? Like, they got off to such a horrible start. Florida, I think, were only 6 points better than them in the overall standings. And the Oilers were awful, just awful in October and November. What would happen if they had played well in those 2 months? They were 31st at the end of November, around the U.S. Thanksgiving. 31 out of 32 teams. How they even made the playoffs is amazing to me. And then they got into the playoffs, and I just think they went on an absolute tear. Didn't really have a ton of trouble with Los Angeles. The Vancouver series was just great fun. And, it's exactly the kind of series I expected between both of those 2 teams. And then the Oilers go on and take on Dallas. Oh, Dallas has got more depth. Dallas is a better team. They only finished a few more points ahead of them, and the Oilers were vacant for 2 months of the regular schedule. Oilers are a pretty good team. They deserve to be in the Stanley Cup final, and so did the Florida Panthers. I thought it would be a little closer, but the Oiler power play, which has really driven their bus through the postseason, has come up empty. And I'm starting to see some guys look a little banged up and a little discouraged. So we'll see what happens now on Thursday.
Yeah, and Sergei Bobrovsky's been as advertised.
Oh.
I mean, you've been around this a little longer than me, Bryn, but not much longer than me. What if I told you that a series or a game comes down to who wants it more? It's not my theory. I had a sports betting odds maker tell me that. He goes, I set the odds on who wants it more. I think Florida
I've
wants
never
it more.
believed that one. I don't buy that. I think both teams want it. It's just one team right now is a little bit better than the other. That's all. It's a skill issue. Look, they said it really well last night on Sportsnet, and I can't remember who said it. It might have even been Luke Gatzik said that this is boiled down to the little things. One team is doing the little things better than the other team, and that's the Florida Panthers. They deserve to be up 2-0 in this series, as far as I'm concerned. Anything else other than that is excuses, as far as I'm concerned. I do know that having watching Connor play all season, he has been on fire with assists. We know that, right? He's not scoring. He's not shooting the puck very well. Something's up there. We're going to find out in another week, 2 weeks, that he's been playing with an injury most of the season. But yet he, with an injury, is still better than 75 to 80% of the players in this National Hockey League. Leon Draisaitl's had himself a great year. At the end of the day, are you not entertained? That's what it's all about, as far as I'm concerned. If you win, that's great. That's a bonus for me. I'm at the point now, Rod, at my age, with the health issues I've gone through, I just watch and have some fun.
You've been through a lot. Listen, as I've learned, thankfully not on my own personally, but through my family, cancer changes you.
It does. I think what it does is it just makes you recognize that this is, it's funny, Bob Stauffer and I have known each other for a very, very long time. And I always used to say to Bob, sports is the toy department of life. At the end of the day, you got to go back to the regular life. So enjoy it. It's the toy department. Play with it. Have fun with it. Just wait to see what goes on. But at the end of the day, you know what? You wake up the next morning. It's a fresh day. The sun's shining beautifully here today, and it's been a horrible spring here. Great winter because we've been able to have this as a distraction with the Edmonton Oilers. But for the most part, I wake up this morning, the sun's shining. I'm going to go out on the deck and have a coffee. I'll worry about Thursday on Thursday.
Me too, bro. It's crap you got to go through to get here, but once you do, it's awesome, as you know. Yeah. Hey, Moose Jaw. The Moose Jaw Warriors winning the WHL. What did you think about that, buddy?
I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. You know, it's funny, all the way through that, all the way through that whole run, I wish things had gone a little better for them at the Memorial Cup. But you know what? It's competitive. I thought, wow, London's going to win this in a romp. Oh, really? Anyway, it just didn't work out for them at the Memorial Cup, but I was so proud of them to see the way. You know, that's a franchise that when I spent my time there, we didn't know if they were going to make it the next season. We didn't know if they were going to be around the next season. I survived more coaches there in my 4.5 years. I think we went through 6 or 7 coaches in my almost 5 years in Moose Jaw. It was a bit of a gong show to start, but the fan support was always great. And I honestly felt that they would do fine if they could ever get out of the crushed can, and they did. I've yet to go into the new arena, and I'm embarrassed to say that. But I was just very proud of the way they came through it, and good on them. And it's a great city. It's a fun city. I loved my time there. I really did.
Yeah, you probably don't know. I'm spending the summer here. I'm calling Moose Jaw Millers baseball on Home Team Live. Yeah. Some of the boys are here working out here this morning. I love it. And the people here have been so nice, which they probably shouldn't be. They still refer to me as the Pats guy. But you also know they're nice people.
Still?
And they like that we're showcasing their town. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I said. Were you not the first voice of the Warriors?
No, Scott Armstrong was the very first. It was the year when they moved from Winnipeg to Moose Jaw. Scott Armstrong was the first voice, and then Scott moved on. And he moved on late. I remember getting a call, like, "Are you interested in coming to Moose Jaw?" And I was living in Edmonton growing up, just trying to get going in the business. I was calling University of Alberta Golden Bear hockey. And I got a call like late August, and I had like 2 weeks to get into Moose Jaw because the season was starting. And then I gave it a pretty good run, almost 5 years. And it was a blast having Rob Carney join me halfway through my term. And I knew Rob would be a great voice for the franchise after I left. And he did just that. And they've done exceptionally well there. But I wasn't the original. I am original, but I wasn't the original.
How about that?
To me, you were. Can you say it,
Thank
Brandon?
you, man.
Can you say it?
Yeah, I will say it happily. I'm out of here, Rod.
How about that? Bingo!
All right. Thanks, Brent. Be well.
All right, Rod. See you later, man.
The super Bryn Griffith. Again, the original voice of the Moose Jaw Warriors as far as we're concerned. Patrolman Peter Winnipeg writes in and he says, Moose Jaw is the most underrated city. I always knew that, but we also came from their top rival, so I couldn't say that. And also Al Capone, look him up. Spent his time later in life between Moose Jaw and the Florida Key. Some similarities there. We'll be right back with Overtime after this. We're live on Game Plus Television, WQEE Radio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Live.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
You got something to say? You want to add to the show? What are you waiting for? Don't just sit there. Say something. Now, back to the studio with Rod.
The studio is the beautiful Golden Ticket Sports Center in Moose Jaw, and we'll talk more about that here at the end of the sports update. Wayne in Victoria, BC. He's had a lot to say today, and it's largely all been good. He says, are you comparing yourself to Al Capone, Rod? I love it. There's similarities there. That's all I can say. Later on in life, spending his time between Moose Jaw and the Florida Keys. So do I. But he died of syphilis, I think. Pretty sure that ain't happening here. So geographically, that's the only parallels. From the audience regarding the puck out of play call last night, Brian in Hudson's Bay writes in, he says, next year, this play will be reviewable. You're a year early, Oilers. He's not an Oiler fan, so I don't know who he's a fan of. I think the Flames. Chad in Lethbridge writes in, he says, the refs are human. Mistakes happen. They aren't making blatant bad calls like umpire Angel Hernandez. The Oilers have had 7 power plays, 0 goals for. Florida's too good and aren't giving McDavid any space. Great show, fellas. That's from Chad in Lethbridge. Well, there is that. I mean, we're not playing well enough. It's easier to blame the officials. And that's why when I see the broadcasters blaming the officials, I'm like, oh, yeah, I used to do that. That's why I don't listen to it. Let me do the sports update. I should mention this because the boys are taking BP indoors here. WCBL tonight, the Moose Jaw Miller Express are at Weyburn in the Western Canadian Baseball League. Swift Currents at Regina. I just got the email from the Regina Red Sox. It's 80s rock night tonight at Curry Field. Hey, Clark, isn't every day 80s rock night there?
Bingo!
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Okotoks at Edmonton, Fort McMurray at Sylvan Lake, Brooks at Lethbridge. Blue Jays are at Milwaukee. And in the Canadian Elite Basketball League, the Montreal Alliance is at Ottawa, taking on the Blackjacks. From the CFL, as we get into the sports update, Jake Mayer, Jared Brinkman, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats offensive line are at the head of the class for Week 1 in the Canadian Football League Honor Roll, powered by Pro Football Focus. Pro Football Focus utilizes extensive review of game footage to provide additional context for every action on the field. They use analytics to decide their players of the week. I don't like that, but if you want more, go to CFL.ca. Details on that. The Edmonton Oilers are heading back to Alberta down 2-0 to the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup Final. The Panthers scored a big 4-1 victory in Game 2 last night with Evan Rodriguez tallying a pair of goals. Game 3 of the 7-game series will be played Thursday at Rogers Place in Edmonton. How about this? Most Canadians are not closely following the Stanley Cup Final, according to a recent survey by Leger. The online poll company found that 58% of Canadians are not paying close attention to the NHL Final between Edmonton and Florida. However, of those that are, 83% are cheering for the Oilers. And we mentioned the Blue Jays. They continue a 3-game series with the Brewers in Milwaukee tonight. The Jays dropped the opener Monday 3-1. Lefty Yusei Kikuchi will start on the mound today for Toronto against Brewers righty Carlos Rodriguez. The sports update is for EMJ Marketing. Transform your audience with powerful presentations from EMJ Marketing's elite speakers. Check out their website for more information, emjmarketing.com, and also for Landmark Cinemas, now playing at Landmark Cinemas. Bad Boys, Ride or Die. This summer, the world's favorite bad boys are back with their iconic mix of edge-of-your-seat action and outrageous comedy, but this time with a twist. Miami's finest are now on the run, starring, as you should know by now, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. Bad Boys in theaters now. And by the way, when you go, that show was filmed about 12 miles from my place. People weren't happy in the area. The streets were shut down for filming. Very similar to Dog River here and Rollo, Saskatchewan. The residents didn't like when they shut down the town to film Corner Gap. I don't blame them. By the way, Brian in Hudson's Bay writes, and he says, oh, no. I'm not a Flame fan. I'm a fan of the big winged wheel, the Detroit Red Wings. John Ohm says, check out the Capone Caves in Moose Jaw. We need a full report and review. He's talking about the tunnels of Moose Jaw. I'll get around to it when I get around to it. Jeremy in Yorkton says it's hard to win the cup, let alone this is a learning lesson. The Oilers aren't built to be a dynasty. If I was the Oilers, I'd be sitting there listening to all the comments like that and using it as fuel. Randy from Winnipeg says, I seen the caves on Western trip with my son years ago. It was cool. It's the tunnels, guys. It's the tunnels. Allie in Texas says, great show as always, RP and crew. Have a fantastic afternoon, everyone. Coming up, we got Billy Lindsay tomorrow. Nice. I didn't even know that. Arash Madash, Alan May, Jim Lang, Jim Barker, CFL alum Jason Riley. Yeah, so we got a big week ahead. Enjoy the day. You too, Jen, at the Four Seasons. Say happy birthday to the Greek Freak, and we'll do it all again tomorrow at noon Eastern right here.
Who has more fun than us?